Welcome to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. This is your podcast for all things hockey. On this podcast, we talk about past history to the modern day and what you can do to grow the sport. I am your host, Adam Rothstein. All right, let's get to the show. Hello there, everyone. We are back again for the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. So today I wanted to go more into the culture of hockey and also just what people think about this. So I was asking around some people, and there are definitely some people that have never seen a hockey game. I mean, they just have not seen it on TV. They never went to the games at high school or whatever the rink there is. Most high schools don't even have the club teams. So even if it's a club or a private school funds it, or it's available to public schools and it's an actual team, maybe in Minnesota. I mean, most of the high schools in this country don't have ice hockey. There were a lot of high schools back in Maryland, back in Montgomery County, that would either partner with other teams and then they'd just wear their uniform, whoever had the majority there, and like Poolsville or whatever, partnered with Northwest or something, or Damascus might have partnered with Rockville. It was a very weird thing of how they did the clubs, and that is also like you're running. You don't even have enough players where you could actually form a team at some of these high schools, which is kind of sad. And most of them do seem uninterested. They don't understand the culture of hockey. And there was an incident with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's First Take, and a lot of fans were pretty salty about that. So I guess I'll leave part of that in the bonus episode today. So definitely head over there on Substack later. But now I've got to admit. The NHL on TV has certainly had its ups and downs. I mean, like, the cameramen, even today, struggle to follow the puck. And that is it can be very difficult for the TV viewer, but you're not always going to be looking at the puck. It's not about the puck all the time. I think, we get a very different perception on football as well, and basketball, because the ball is bigger and you need typically two hands to catch those balls. Hockey, the puck is about the size of a baseball, maybe a little smaller. It's hard to track. They even had the Fox Tracks puck one time, which actually, if anything, that actually hurt the game because you're alienating all the initial fans, and you're insulting the newcomers, like saying, "Hey, look at this pretty light puck that you can now follow because you don't understand it." That certainly hurt the culture as well. The speaking of the puck again, it's very difficult to get into it. They don't understand the one-timers or a block shot typically, and I do want to just help with that. There's not going to be a lot of scoring in hockey, and with the butterfly, it's also very hard to score with the butterfly. Now, if you've ever played this game, which I don't know why You haven't. Um, actually, actually, I do know why. The game itself is probably the most expensive team sport. Um, not counting polo. Not counting polo. I think this might actually be the most expensive sport. Now there are some organizations that do charity with this as well. I had Joe Vanakis on with the Tenderbridge Foundation, but but let's get but when you're when you have to pay over $1,000 a season for high school or and sometimes even 1,500, I think out of all the costs with new equipment and stuff and sticks, a good quality stick could be up to $400 too. Now you can get away with like the 150s or the $175 in price, but even that $175 there, and and most of the kit. And don't forget about the pads. In football, you just get the pads, maybe some gloves, and your helmet, and it's still cheaper. Also, the cleats could still be multi-use as well for football and baseball too. For example, basketball sneakers and just the jersey and the shorts is pretty cheap. I mean, you that's easily under $200. But hockey, you so here's what you have to have in hockey for in terms of the equipment. You need the skates to, well, obviously skate. You need the shin pads. You need the hockey pants. You need the gloves. You need the chest protector. You need the helmet, cage, or fish bowl. And unless you're in the AHL or maybe ECHL, with some exceptions, there you can have the half shield that covers your eyes and helmet. And and don't forget about the mouth guard. Even if you're wearing a cage or a fishbowl, it's still a requirement for most leagues as well. So even after all of that, that is frustrating as well to deal with because like that is you're going to be spending thousands of dollars, like over $1,000 a year easily for a parent, and they don't want to put. And also, think about what football has done as well. They don't want to. Typically, parents don't want to put their kids in danger, and it can be very difficult to, at first, put them in tackle football. And some of these kids just grow up in more aggressive sports. I mean, I think the reason why baseball is still having is still a good choice for a youth sport is because it's not that much of a contact sport. Other than the baseball hitting you at times, it's not much of a contact sport. Basketball is more of a contact sport. But yet, I think that's going to be the one that dominates so much. And youth soccer is still, you have more kids signing up for that too. But the NHL itself is more popular than the MLS for whatever reason. And I think kids identify with kicking a ball around, and honestly, if you've met some of the kids in Florida or most of the kids across the United States, they complain about the cold. They will complain about the cold all freaking day, and they'll do that, and they'll do everything you can possibly imagine. Like they want to be warm too, and playing soccer in the sunshine at 9 o'clock in the morning is more entertaining to them than waking up at 7 o'clock or waking up at 6 o'clock to go to a 7 o'clock practice, because it will take them about 30 minutes to change because kids are kids, and then getting out on the ice, and by the way, it could be like 15 degrees in the rink, and the parents complain too. My mother complained so much about being in she was not there present at my senior night in high school. She was not there. She was like there for a few minutes and then she walked out. That also does play a part into the culture. And if roller hockey was the more dominant version of hockey, I think we would have. I don't think ice hockey would be the dominant. I don't think. I think ice hockey might have been a afterthought, and it would have only been reserved to maybe the ponds had roller hockey taken off before before Montreal discovered this at McGill. I don't think it is it's amazing how even that sport was created out of everything. Baseball just dominated more of the North American scene, and I think because what do you do during the summer when there's no basketball, when there's not really a warm sport? Football or rugby was something not really present in North America. And don't get me started, we were not there much on soccer. We wanted to be different from the Brits, and thus we invented baseball there. That's how baseball came about. But in McGill University, 1875, March 3rd, I believe. Actually, it's the I don't know, the 147th, 48th anniversary of this wonderful game as well. And baseball's older too. It really was quite amazing how they did it too, because the skating rink was for skaters. It wasn't for there was no real violence there as well, and also some people are turned off by the fighting when in the games, but that's a bit of a side note. But to finish off the point of how it was created, it was a stroke of luck. They just wanted to go out and have fun, and they did, and the rules changed dramatically over the years. Like, the goalie can plop down now. There are less people on the ice at the time, and you're not, and the rink itself is bigger now, or there's a certain size, and you don't need to necessarily be in northern areas to play this game. And it's spread across the globe. Asian countries have teams, Europeans, North Americans, Australia has a team, even England has a frickin' team as well. So that's how it came about. The culture. So anyway, it was it's still fighting. That also can turn everyone off. Yet I don't understand how the UFC is still the UFC is still beating the NHL in some cases too, and yet hockey allows for fighting. Now, of course, these are not professional fighters. They don't know how to bob or weave like boxers. They're not that. They're not paid to be boxers. They're paid to pass pucks, block shots, score, pass, shoot, everything, dominate, check. They still do check people into the boards, obviously, but they're not fighters. And then this aspect of it certainly does turn some people off, and they don't like it. I mean, we get it. We're frustrated. We'll even slash some players after we fall. Sometimes if they do something dirty, because we're pent up and we need to get it out. At times, and we can do that, and don't do that on purpose. Don't slash anyone because you go down. But I'm saying it happens because we don't know where, because we're frustrated at the time and we're not thinking clearly, and this happens in all sports too. But the fighting turns off the typical viewer because the NHL markets this as a family-friendly sport, and they don't. And when there's blood drawn from a player, they're like, "What is this? Like, like you're remember these people, most people that you encounter a lot of people that I've encountered have never seen a hockey game, or there's still quite a handful, and they're like, why do they allow this fighting? You get kicked out in baseball, you get kicked out in basketball and football as well. There was a player, just because he smashed his helmet against another player in the NFL, was kicked out. But, you're allowed to punch them when you go at it and you get into a fight, and, you get penalty minutes, and there are players in the Hall of Fame that have the record penalty minutes as well. So we glorify it too. I mean, it's not more of a simple allowing it. We glorify it, and there's like, I thought you wanted to grow the game. And then it's like, well, I'm as well, but, and maybe we shouldn't necessarily, we can allow it as well, so long as both parties consent, but we're not going to but I don't think we should put anyone in the Hall of Fame because, they have the most penalty minutes, per se. If anything, that just costs your team in the long run, and you don't get much of a chance to prove yourself. So, also, what is their perception on the Stanley Cup Finals? It is the most fun playoff that you can possibly see. By the way, you can possibly see. By the way, and but it's not marketed well as well. I mean, there are 32 NHL teams, and I'm still impressed that we even got 32 teams before the MLB or the NBA. And that is still, it's not easy to show with, it's not easy to handle. Now it's grown, the sport has grown. There are still some youth sports as well. There are definitely some youth groups as well. St. Louis was one city that certainly has built up well, but it is hard to grow in the state of Florida. I'll tell you one thing. You do get some NHL players from Arizona, Florida, as well now. Even from my home state of Maryland, even though it was only fourth line center. But I'll tell you one thing. It can be very difficult, too, at times. And there's only such a limited amount of ice as well. There were 3 rinks in my county where I grew up. But one arena had 2 rinks, and then another one had 1, and then another had 3. And then I guess Laurel had 4. It had 4, I think. Yeah, it had either. It had 3, 4 if you count the back is the outdoor rink as well. But also there's a limited amount of ice as well, so it's hard to just break into the culture as well when you have to maintain the ice. Now remember earlier in this segment I talked about it being too cold. Oh, it's too cold, and then because we have to maintain the ice. And not only that, you need to pay for the Zambonis as well. So with all that, most people are not going to invest in ice hockey rinks. Now, roller rinks seem to be really popular in the South because, you don't need... What do you need to do? Sweep it up as well? That's also something else. I do think the culture is it's definitely hard. It can be hard to understand, like why why players defend, why do they do this, why do they do that. I think it just takes some time to get used to it, and they're like, I like seeing it up front too. I mean, like, would I rather see a game up front? Yeah, get some good seats, and then but then some people still complain, like, I don't understand it, like they don't understand. They don't understand what offsides is, and you don't put 2 feet in front of the blue line when you're entering the offensive zone if you don't have the puck. That's a no-no. Like, and they don't get the, and that is difficult to understand as well. The puck needs to cross the blue line before you do. That's I think that can be easily understandable. They also, don't understand why some things are not a goal and others are not, because the puck not crossing completely can certainly throw people off. That is one thing else, and that's like because in soccer, all the ball has to do is just get, more than half of it in there. And I do think that's a stupid rule, even in soccer. Put more effort into it. Have the object or ball cross the goal line completely. I think I don't understand people's mindset on that one as well. So because oh yeah, it's not a goal because it didn't cross completely. That's a load of crap. And it's like, no, you need to put that over the goal line because it's a rule, and because one, there's more scoring in hockey than there is soccer, but also with that being said, you're going to have more goals anyway, and it just makes more sense to show that you legitimately scored. So those are some of the things that I thought about the culture. Okay, so Mr. Todd Miska is going to come on the program on Thursday. This episode is out Thursday, but you'll receive that on Monday. The full episode on Monday. So definitely feel free to check that out. I'm going to talk a little bit about Stephen A. Smith and some commentators in the bonus episode. So definitely sign up for Substack if you haven't already. For $5 a month, you get access to that bonus episode and all the other past content. With that being said, take care, everyone.